I grew up in a hunting family. Started hunting with my grandfather when I was 12 years old. I carried an old 8mm Mauser that my dad gave me. Granddad and my dad, they cut the stock off so it would fit me because I was pretty little, or everyone's little at 12. And I carried that gun for several years and started hunting elk and deer with my granddad. You know, and to be honest with you, I never have been what I would consider to be a very good shot with a rifle. Didn't have a whole lot of training. I mean, remember Granddad and I would go way up in the mountains to this old kind of a gravel pit, and every year right before hunting season we would buy a box of shells, and he'd take some targets out there, and we'd pace off 100 yards and set up some targets and shoot. And for me at that time, and for many years, 100 yards was a somewhat formidable shot. I think a lot of it had to do with maybe having a rifle that was a little bit too big for me. I shot some big rifles when I was young and developed a real bad kind of a fear of these big magnums. The guys that I hunted with and grew up with, they were kind of a real macho group, and your manhood was directly correlated with the size of the magnum that you would carry. And of course, you know, all the guys that we looked up to and some of the older men that were really good hunters would carry big 300 mags and 300 Weatherby mags and 340 Weatherbies and all that. So us kids, when we were at 16, 17, thought, well, that's what we want to have too. And that just further exacerbated the problem of developing, for me, a really bad flinch and basically a fear of those big guns well, wasn't exactly rational. So as time goes on, and I would continue to hunt and continue to shoot, and my results were always really disappointing. And I started thinking, like, well, I have pretty good equipment and good optics, and you know, it must be me. You know, maybe some people are just not inherently good at shooting rifles long distance, and I felt that I fell into that category. So years fast forward later, and of course, you know, we started getting into kind of the YouTube culture, and I am a big fan of a lot of the firearms channels, and enjoy watching Nut and Fancy and Iraq 88 and Hickok and Tiberius Rex, however you pronounce that. And I started kind of watching those things and seeing these guys making these phenomenal shots with rifles at like 1,000 yards, 1,200, 1,700 yards, and it was, to me, it was just mystifying. And I thought, man, how is that possible? Me struggling, I feel myself fortunate if I can do a softball-sized group at 100 yards. I didn't think that I could ever shoot out to those ranges. So I started watching a lot of those videos and tutorials, and I went through the whole series that Rex did. He's got like a over 20 part series of precision rifle shooting, and it was so detailed and so much math and all of this stuff that to me, it was just overwhelming. I appreciate guys that can put in the effort and to do all of that, but me, just knowing my personality, I'm just not that much into it. And for me to go through all of that education, it was a barrier to me. It was just something that I just thought, well, that's just not for me. I wanted to do it, but I wasn't willing to put in that much effort and work. So I got involved with the guys, as you saw, maybe a few months back, Leupold. They invited Mrs. W and I out to the Leupold Optics Academy, and for the first time in my life, I was able to shoot accurately out to 1,200 yards. It was really, really thrilling to me to be able to do that. It wasn't something that I thought that I would be able to do and put so little effort into it. And it all came down to technology in rifle calibers, technology in optics, and primarily technology in ballistics computers. So this video, I'm sorry, it's going to go a little bit long today. I'm just inviting you to come hang out. I want to try something today. I have put together this rifle. I'll show you the equipment we have right here because I'm not a gun collector. I wanted one rifle that I could do everything with. And what my criteria was I wanted to have something that was high quality, that I could shoot accurately. I mean, absolutely lethal accuracy up to, let's say, 1,200 yards. It's just an arbitrary number, but for me, that was kind of the number that I set. I wanted it to be under 10 pounds, and I wanted to be able to hunt with it, to have something that was compact, portable, just one gun. My granddad always said, you know, we've all heard this before, but be leery of the man that only has one rifle. Because what I found is having multiple rifles and optics and switching things around, I never really trusted any of them. I really never knew where I was at with them. I never was really very proficient with any one of them. And so I decided to sweep all of that away, and let's just go with one rifle and let's master it. Let's see if we can master it, see if we can be deadly accurate at 1,200 yards. So what I've got set up here is I've got a range set up outside the homestead here out to 600 yards. I've got some brand new ammunition that I've never shot before, and I've got a ballistics computer made by Kestrel, which we'll go into here in a minute. And what I want to show you is that how simple it is for just a common guy like you, like me, without a ton of training, that can be deadly precise and accurate out to, well, we can go out to 614 yards today with some tools that just sweep all of that other complication, everything out of the way, and just make it connect the dots easy. It really is that simple. Let's take a look at the equipment really quick, and then we'll see how well we can do with this new ammo. Let's briefly cover the equipment that I'll be using. So the spotting scope is really important, and the spotting scope is a wonderful addition because it's 40 power. It helps me to see when I'm on target. But even more important than that is that it's got a matching reticle with the scope. And what that means is just a fancy way of saying that the crosshairs inside of the optic on my rifle are exactly the same crosshairs that are on this Mark IV Leupold optic. So that if I'm spotting and I can see where I'm hitting on a target, I can measure that in the optic and the spotting scope and make the adjustments in the rifle. And that's sitting on a Manfrotto carbon tripod. The one rifle to do all that I'll be shooting today is, of course, my 6.5 Creedmoor I had built by T&T Armament in Nebraska. They did a fabulous job for me. We've got a 20-inch proof carbon barrel, and it's based on a Remington 700 Action, rechambered, of course, in the Creedmoor. Badger Ordnance style, or a clone, an M5 clone of the bottom metal with the magazine, and then, of course, the excellent Macmillan A3 stock. You can see here the color. This is moleskin I have on there. I'm going to Thunder Ranch to shoot with Clint Smith, and shooting that many rounds, I wanted something that was soft on my delicate skin. And the optic, you probably haven't seen this before. This is my new optic that I'll be using in the class. This is a Leupold Mark IV. There, focus. Leupold Mark IV, first focal plane in a 6.5 to 20 power with M5 turrets. This is a fabulous, fabulous optic. I have just absolutely fallen in love with it. So for the ammunition, now this is going to be a real test of how well these ballistics computers work today. It is a new ammunition that I have not shot before. This is a Hornady Match. It's a 147 grain ELD match. What's really appealing to me for this ammunition, it came highly recommended to me from people that I really trust, is that you can use it for hunting. You can use it for hunting or for target. That way I can just shoot one cartridge and I don't have to worry about different ballistics calculations, that I can know that I can target with this. It's super accurate for that, and I can hunt with it, which really appeals to me. And a quick shout out to Brownells. Brownells supplied the ammunition for this video. They sent me a couple cases, and I want to just give them a shout out and a thank you for that. One more thing that I've added to the rifle that I haven't talked about or shown before is this level bubble right here that folds out of the way. So this is pretty important because it's hard to tell sometimes if your rifle is level when you're lining up long shots. So it probably doesn't matter so much for these shorter ones, but what it does is you can just glance off to the side of your scope right there, right before you take the shot, and just be sure that you're shooting level, that the plane of your rifle barrel and your scope are all in line. If you've never seen one of these before, this is a Kestrel ballistics calculator. 5700, what is it, 5700 with ballistics, applied ballistics in it. The first time I saw a Kestrel, they're not just for shooting. They use them for, they're really precise weather meters. The first time I started using them was probably about 7 years ago or so. These have become almost essential with wildland firefighting for predicting weather and the growth rate of fire and spread. And I've grown to really trust them, and it's been something that's been essential for us as firefighters. Well, they started getting into applied ballistics and building these for long-range shooters. And the guys at the Leupold Optics Academy, which were former Spec Ops guys, one of the guys that was teaching there was one of the top snipers in the world. said that the guys that he works with in special forces, snipers, they're essentially living by these. That they all use them, they all trust them, and it's just become something that is just a mandatory deal. So what it essentially does is it takes all of that figuring, all of the calculators and the map and the figuring and all that stuff out of the equation. It does it for you, and it tells you what to do. It's like, I heard a guy on a video say, it's like a spotter in a can telling the shooter what to do. So let's set it up. I'm not going to get into the technical details of this. I'm not an expert at this. I'm just a layman like you are that just has a desire I want to shoot well. I don't have to shoot out to 2 miles, but if I could shoot out accurately to 1,000 yards, I would be a very happy person. And this tool has made it possible for me. So let's get it set up, and then we'll start taking some shots. Yeah, that's pretty cool, isn't it? So you don't have to use the Kestrel this way, but you can use it as a remote weather station. And it's not really practical if you're hunting and such, but for me, where I'm shooting out here, if I want absolute accuracy and get as close as I can for one-shot hits, I can set it up here on a tripod, and it's actually transmitting real-time firing solutions to my phone up to, I think, 100 feet away or so. That way I can, if I'm shooting up at the house, the wind is not really accurate there, but if I put it out here more in the open field, now it's broadcasting real time. And not only that, but it's giving me real-time weather changes. We have a storm front coming in. The barometric pressure, station pressure, is changing rapidly right now. And this is taking that into consideration, and it's broadcasting to me, the shooter, right at my rifle, basically, to oversimplify, I don't mean to complicate this, it's telling me how many times to turn the dials on the scope to hit the target. Don't be intimidated by this, guys. And remember, you don't have to use this whole phone thing. I know sometimes it gets to be too complicated. You can do all this with just the Kestrel itself. I'm just kind of showing you. It's just kind of fun to geek out on this stuff when you have the time here. So this is our shooter screen, or this is my we're going to call it my firing solution screen. It's got all my information on it, but we're zeroed at 100 yards. So the first shot we'll take is 100 yards just to double check our zero. But you can see right there we have a wind vane, and it's giving me. Now my scope is set up in 1/10 of mils. So each click, there's 10 clicks per mil. Inside there, it's giving me a couple things here. It's giving my elevation. This is set at 100 yards. Right there's the yardage. 100 yards, there should be no corrections whatsoever. A 0.03, which is so minuscule you wouldn't even fool with it. And then it's giving me the wind direction. But this whole thing is figuring everything in. It's taking the wind into consideration, the Coriolis effect, spin drift, all these things that I don't understand. It's doing it for me so that I can be accurate on target. Now, as we go out, we'll see right here, right there, we see our range. I can simply swipe this up here like this, and now you'll see that the numbers are changing. So if we go out to, let's say, 600 yards here, right there, so we're at 603, close enough. Right there, see, it's making those corrections and changes. So that's telling me that I need to come up 4.2 mils in elevation to hit my target and hold left 0.34. Now the windage is something that, is kind of always changing, and that's where the real art comes into it. But it gives you a baseline and gets you on target, and you can start, and then you can make corrections after that. But the elevation, if I put all my stuff in here correctly, should be absolutely spot on. So for our first shot, we're not going to need any ballistics calculator because we're going to be shooting 100 yards, and that's what we're zeroed at. So that's what. So we'll just turn our scope turrets to 0 on the elevation and windage, and we'll just check our 0 right here at 100 yards and see how close we are. See if we're on. You never know where you're at until you do 3. Let's do 3. All right, we'll go with that. That first shot I didn't like. All right, let's go out to 400. Doing some serious multitasking here with flying the drone on the phone and doing the ballistics calculations. Okay, so we're out at the 400-yard target, and I'm going to dial in 400. I've got the Kestrel out there feeding me real-time weather information. And at the 400, all right, so it's telling me right here, I don't know if you can see that, I need to come up with my elevation 2.15, so I'm going to come up 2.2, and a holdover for windage at 2.2 mils. So it's just so simple. So, okay, so I need to come up 2.2, so I'll just turn my turrets up to 2.2, that's 22 clicks. 1, 2, and then for my windage elevation, I can dial that in the scope, or I can just hold it. Okay, so my holdover was 0.2, so you can see that the Kestrel gave me at 400 yards the exact elevation that I needed, spot on, providing that I shot in the right spot. So when I see that, now I can just simply, I'm going to hold over, I held over 0.1, 1 mil to the left. I'm going to do the same shot here. I'm going to hold 0.2 to the left and see where we come out. There you go. Let's do one more because it's just so much fun. We'll hold 0.2 to the left. Looks like I maybe jerked the trigger a little bit right there. I'm not a great shot, never have been. But using this Kestrel is almost like cheating. There we go, not too bad. All right. Now that was a 10-inch target. I've got a really hard one out there at 550 yards. That's a small one. I think it's only 6 inches. So that's a pretty small target for me at 550 yards. But let's see what the Kestrel tells us here. So if we roll this up here to 550 yards, right there, it's giving us a real-time elevation of 3.62. So I'll dial up my elevation at 3.6, and then it's giving me a 0.3 holdover to the left. So I'll start with that. This is 550 yards at as a really small target. So let's see how we do here. It's 550 yards. First shot. Looks like the elevation that the Kestrel figured is perfect. I held over 0.4 for wind. Let's hold over 0.5 this time, see what we can do. Second shot. And one more. We'll try hold over 0.4 again. It's just amazing. You know, for me, a 550 yard shot into a small target, that's just something that's never been possible before. And it's with this system, it's just easy. Amazing. All right, let's push it out to 600. I think I jerked the trigger on that. Let's try that again here. Okay, a little bit strong on the windage. Looks like the elevation's right. The wind's really swirling, whipping around right now. The Kestrel's feeding me back real time. Now it's saying the holdover is a 0.4. So that's what's so nice about having it up there on the tripod. It's giving me real life feedback. right here at my shooting bench. So I can simply line up on the target. I can glance over. The holdover is 0.4 now. Oh, drone's coming back. Low battery. So there you have it. Proof's in the pudding. You can take someone like myself that is not a great shooter, never has been, and using good quality optics and the Kestrel to help to get on target at those, for me, is a pretty long range. I just think it's miraculous, and it's just brought a pleasure and a joy to shooting that I've never had before, and I don't even know where the limit is. You know, I can only shoot out to 614, 15 yards from here. But I have no doubt with a little bit of practice, and probably very little practice, I should be accurate out to 1,200 yards with this rifle, no problem. And if I can shoot in those parameters, I'm absolutely thrilled. You'll notice that on those targets, from what I've seen from the initial footage, I'll have to go back and look at it, but it looks like the elevations were spot on. I yanked a couple shots by bad fundamentals, but if you look at the elevation that was being fed back to me from the Kestrel, I mean, they're right in there. And once it's programmed in there, I mean, it's set. This gun is just dialed in, and then the windage portions of that, that's just going to come with experience. That's on me. But even with my lack of experience, it gave me a reference point to start. Brand new rifle, brand new ammunition that I've never shot before, and to be able to get on targets at those ranges is, it's just so exciting. So exciting. I'm just thrilled. So yeah, hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll put links to a couple of things that have really helped me with this, but this is something that you can do, and it's not witchcraft. It's repeatable, and it's just a wonderful thing. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys on the next video.